right, well, welcome everyone. But our goal of this is to have conversation. And so when we have that, we're going to stop the recording. But we invite you to come on video, to unmute yourself if you'd like to be able to just engage with folks. So hello, everyone. I am Juliana McMillan-Wilhoit. I am based halfway between Chicago and Milwaukee. I have an overexcited 3-year-old at home today who thinks that today is Halloween. So I am hopeful that she does not burst into my office while we're doing this today, but welcome everyone. Would love if you want to put in the chat where you're from, right? The goal of this is to be able to build connection with other folks. Welcome everyone. So thankful that you're all here. Great. Thanks, Carly. Great to hear that you work in the operations division. Andrea, I'm very curious how to pronounce where you are from in Ohio. I'm assuming it's Van. In my mind, it's Van Wert, but would be curious in terms of how it's pronounced. So again, just really thankful for all of you to be here. We're just gonna wait another minute or so. We had about 60 folks register. Know that things can come up, and yesterday there was a great Teams outage, which I think may have impacted some sending out of emails or other things. Oh, it's correct. Okay, the van worked. Amazing. I'm assuming that there were Dutch people at some point in your part of Ohio, but perhaps I'm wrong. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and get started out of respect for everyone's time. So hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to our AI community of practice, which is a space for public health professionals to come together, to share, to learn, and to grow together. About a year and a half ago, we started these meetings and we called it Public Health Coffee and Connect. It was a time where public health professionals could come together and just talk. Over the course of this year, particularly after changes in federal funding happened, the space has looked very different. We've done just very short, sort of like, I need a space to connect times. The space has evolved over time. The thing that we consistently hear from folks is that you want a place to be able to connect with other people who are working in public health. I'd say that pretty much all of you are working in governmental public health. We have a few folks who are working as academic partners, but that's really the goal and the focus of this. Folks who are working in those spaces. And then also that there's a lot of conversation around AI. What does AI look like? How do we do AI well? And so that is what we're beginning to move this space into. And so we don't necessarily have everything figured out. And so we're going to actually have a conversation about that. The goal of our time together is for you to be able to connect with other people. So in today's session, there's going to be 3 things. So first is we're just going to set the stage talking a little bit about the space. Then we're going to have a short conversation about AI logging and compliance in terms of why that is so important. And then the third thing is that we're going to get into breakout rooms to have conversations with each other, because we all need to just connect human to human. And so that is our goal. So our ground rules for this are pretty simple. The first is that the expectation is just that you're here to build genuine connection with other people. So we want to build relationships with people. The second is that there's no selling or promoting of services. This is a group in which if you're a consultant, we're going to ask that you leave. This is a space where it's just really important to build those one-on-one relationships. Secondly, you will not hear selling from the F&T Labs team. And that's something that's really important. If you feel like we did sell in any capacity, please provide that feedback to me, because this is not the space for that. This is a space for having connection. And then that finally, it just respect everyone's perspective. When we talk about AI, when we talk about other things, right, everyone's going to have different opinions and perspectives. And one of the things that actually this format came out of was me in early 2020, so pre-pandemic, feeling like I was seeing so much division in America, and feeling like one thing that I can do is to try and reach out and have conversations with people who are in my profession, within my field, and to try and understand a little bit better about how they view things. And maybe if I can have that conversation with somebody, understand their perspective, maybe that's one way that I can try and heal the divide of America. Obviously, that can't fix everything, but we want to have conversations with people who have different perspectives than us. So one of the things that we are genuinely curious about is how can we make this a community that will work for you? We're going to sort of circle back to this question at the end of our time together, but I just wanted to put it out there. A grounding thing for us is that on the last Thursday of every month, except for November, because that is Thanksgiving and we're not going to meet then, is that we have these monthly meetings, but is creating a LinkedIn group, a Discord channel, a Slack a thing on Teams, is creating something like that, something that is useful to you to be able to ask other peers and to build relationships. We don't want to create infrastructure if it's just going to be another thing that is not useful to you, but we're trying to figure out how can this be a space where it is moderated and safe so that we are ensuring who is a member of the group and that you can ask questions within your personal capacity as a human being to be able to ask questions and try and understand AI and also just navigate public health in 2025. So anyway, the one thing here is that I'm now going to use a random number generator. Sorry. Okay, so Emily McRae, you have won a sticker pack of public health stickers. So you can see my email address on the screen there. If you want to shoot me an email with your address, I will get you some public health stickers in the mail. And so it's just like a fun, interactive thing here. And thank you for being here. So every month when we meet, we want to have a topic of conversation. And this month, what we want to talk about is the importance of having audit trails and logging your AI conversations. So right now, at least based off of the conversations that we've had, it's pretty clear that folks are using AI. I'm assuming that that is a reason why you are here today, is because you are using AI and you're interested in AI to some degree. And so from NACO, the National Association of County Officials, we found that about 60% of county staff across the US are using AI on a monthly basis. Most of them are using ChatGPT, and that study is, I believe, from early 2024. So my guess is that number is a lot higher now. But anyway, that's like the best number that we have. We were really curious about that number. And so this summer, our team at F&T Labs had about 50 conversations with folks who are working in governmental public health, so state, local, and a few folks at the CDC, to understand a little bit more about how they're using AI. And a big thing that came out of it is that it seems to be a bit of a no man's land. Everyone's sort of piecing together what they can. Few organizations have policies, and even if there is a policy, people are just sort of going around them. I'm sure I'm sort of preaching to the choir here where y'all sort of know and understand this. But one thing that is really interesting about that is that means that there's not insight into what questions are being asked of AI to be able to get your job done. And so that means that as an organization, right, you probably have logging on your email to make sure that you aren't sending out a spreadsheet that has PII in it, folks' social security numbers, whatever. But that's a lot harder to do within a generative AI system. So that's just, part of the reality is that you don't have that logging with folks just sort of like, using whatever system they have. But there's also sort of some more reasons why logging AI conversations is particularly important. And so we're just going to talk about them a little bit here, and then we'll talk more about them in a minute. But is that, that there's sunshine laws that may require it, audit trails for reviews, as well as just like knowledge preservation are some reasons why being able to log what questions you're asking, right? So when we talk about logging, what we talk about here is being able to see, just like your IT team can see at a high level, sort of like what emails are getting sent out, being able to see, okay, what are the questions that are being asked, having the ability to search those questions. And that's something that a lot of the commercially available tools right now for AI aren't doing that, right? You're sort of trusting your staff that, hey, you aren't putting something sensitive up here. But there's a really important legal reality here that I want us to sort of chat about, is that these AI conversations are public records if they relate to official business, even on your personal accounts. So Sam Altman, who is the semi-controversial head of OpenAI, who they make ChatGPT, and he's been pretty open recently about how chat records are being used in court cases now, that ChatGPT can give records for court cases, right? So if you make a comment to a staff member saying, oh yeah, I used ChatGPT in terms of writing this performance document, and then that gets back and that person wasn't happy with it, ChatGPT has to give those over, because there's no sort of attorney-client privilege, there's no therapist confidentiality or anything like that with your chat records. And that's something that's perhaps concerning. So depending on what state and jurisdiction you're in, there's also things related to this. For example, in the Washington Secretary of State, the California Public Records Act, these are all examples of laws that say that AI interactions about official business are public records, right? So if you're operating within one of those states, there is already sort of the start of precedent in terms of why this matters. Right, as we talked about, that it can be included in discovery and litigation requirements. So if, a member of the public isn't happy about something, if, it's used in a personnel matter, those are all reasons why, it's part of those requirements. And so this is something where, we'd say that it's really important to follow the law and to make sure that you are setting yourself up to not sort of foot a massive legal bill, but also, protecting yourself. There's reasons why, that this could fall under records retention, compliance, as well as just like more broadly, government accountability standards, being able to log all of those conversations. So having your folks out on sort of disparate ChatGPT accounts, or, using a platform that doesn't allow for that compliance logging, is a real challenge, and why platforms that do allow for you to have that organizational look into that is so incredibly important. So again, just sort of like to reiterate what I've said, is what this means for you is that AI prompts and outputs can be released publicly, that discovery requests can also include those AI interactions. And if you don't have a way to provide those because everyone's on their own accounts that aren't being managed, that's, really hard. As well as you need a way to be able to capture and log those AI conversations. There are tools that are available on the market that can do it, and love to talk to you a little bit more about that in terms of, what those are. But anyway, I'm just sort of curious here, what your thoughts are about this. Is this something that you have thought about or experienced before? So what we're going to do now is head into breakout rooms to be able to have more in-depth discussions. So there are discussion questions here on the screen. Nebu, do you have the capacity to just talk about the discussion questions while I try and do rooms? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hi, I'm Nebu. I work with Juliana at Flourish and Thrive Labs. And so, like Juliana said, she's going to put you into breakout rooms. I do want to say that the functionality would, when she clicks it, it takes a while. So there's going to be this awkward thing where we just stare at you for a little bit. That's okay. We're going to live in that. When we get there, please introduce yourself. Ask how and if your team is currently using AI. Do your organizations have policies around logging in conversations with AI or record retention policies, etc.? What, if any, barriers exist to logging AI conversations, and how would a community of practice help you? You don't have to memorize all those. When you're in your breakout rooms, Juliana or one of us will send you those in the chat.
No, we're all good. All right. Okay. So I'm now going to open up these breakout rooms. And again, the goal of this is just to build relationships and to have conversation with folks. You also don't have to talk about these things. We encourage you to, but maybe you're dealing with something else, concerns over SNAP funding tomorrow. I am also going to end the recording right now. So none of this is going to be recorded after this point. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead